Welcome back to another episode of the Bull in the Cup podcast. I'm your host, David.
And I'm the co-host, also David, David's dad. All right, welcome everybody. Final episode of season 2. So we got something exciting for you. We've been off for a few weeks, busy with school, busy with work, busy with football. That's right. Are you ready for some football? Football season is back, and we are here to talk about fantasy football and online betting stocks. We're not advocating betting, but again, just like we talk about, anything that's on the stock market, we want to be aware of and see if it's something that's an investable company. So let's first start, before we get into the betting stocks, the online sports betting stocks, let's talk about kind of the cousin to that, which is fantasy football, and we'll show how that's related in a moment. But talk to me about how popular fantasy sports are in the United States, David.
Well, fantasy football is very popular as 29 million people play fantasy football in the U.S. each year. And 60 million people play fantasy sports in U.S. and Canada. So football is the main one, but people play other sports. And fantasy sports, it's worth $11 billion.
Oh my gosh, and 11 billion, billion with a B, right?
That's a million.
Yeah, well, and it's fun too, right? I mean, we play fantasy sports. It's a lot of fun. Like, who's your quarterback, David?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen's your quarterback, so you're clearly kicking butt every week on your fantasy team, and it's more exciting to watch football when you have a fantasy team. People who have fantasy teams, understand this. They're excited to watch the games. Less so sometimes because of the teams, but also because they want to follow their players. So football dominates the TV market. What's the TV market tell us,
Just
David?
Really quickly, just for anyone who doesn't know, basically what fantasy football is there's like a list of like every single player, and there's a draft with like however many players you want. We had like 12 of people competing, so everybody like took turns in order choosing a player until you got like your team. So that's like your fantasy team, and then you can like trade with others just like in a normal thing, but it's your team. And how each person does, not how their team does, but how they specifically do matters a lot. So if their team gets 100 points, this is not how much people in football get, it's a lot less, but presuming they get 100 points, the team does, you could get 0 points.
Right, no, that's a great point. And I skipped the step of explaining, I presume because 29 million people play fantasy football each year, that where people knew the rules. But you're right, I'm glad we explained that, because there's a lot of people who don't play and wonder what it's all about. And so it's part of what's made football. Football was already very popular, but it's made it even more popular. So talk to me, David, about football television stats. How popular is football in America?
Oh my. Football is like the most American sport. The Super Bowl has consistently each year around 127 million viewers. So in perspective, like a third of the amount of viewers that Mr. Beast has.
Right, for comparison. And then if you look at the Nielsen ratings of, what are the most watched shows in America every week, it's so funny during football season. What's it say?
Well, top 8 shows in U.S. last week were all football.
Isn't that amazing? Every single one. Like Sunday night football, Monday night football, just run down the list. So we've been talking about fantasy sports and football because, again, it's kind of the gateway into online sports betting. And online sports betting really took off really in 2018. The Supreme Court struck down a ban. There used to be a federal ban against this, and then once that was struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court, states could enact laws allowing, if they wanted to in their state, online sports betting. And so now we have 38 states in the United States allow online sports betting, and this is where literally you can bet on who's going to win the game. You can go on an app and bet if it's allowed in your state.
Bet how much a player gets, a specific player. You can bet the most random things. You can bet what a specific player will get, anything.
Mm-hmm. It's fairly addicting for a lot of people. So just, not advocating for it, but it's something that's happening. And There are two very popular online sports betting stocks. Tell me about the stocks and how much they're selling per share.
Well, the two main ones were Fan Duel, which I'm sure many of you know, $280 a share, up $53 year to date. And DraftKings, another one you'll probably know, $42 a share, up $5 from year to date. So these companies are going up fairly quicker than most. So
yeah,
that's why. And also, this will continue to grow as more states allow online betting.
Right. No, that's a good point. So they're two stocks to watch. FanDuel is owned by Flutter, so you'll see it on there, and they've had a great year. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in too. Their growth as online betting continues to grow, but also, is anybody else going to be entering the market, or are there smaller players that will continue to grow as online gambling does well? I've been having my eye on Penn, PENN, if you're looking for the stock ticker, National Gaming. They partnered with ESPN to launch ESPN Bet, and so I expect they're going to do fairly well. They were an existing online gambling company with some physical locations as well. But to partner with ESPN, who's airing a significant portion of football and sports games, to launch ESPN Bet should be make them at least a bigger player than they are at the moment. And so I'd watch for them to grow. So that's it, I think, on the fantasy football and the sports betting stocks. Just something everybody should be watching because of how popular fantasy football and sports is and online sports betting in America. Let's recap now. You want to do last week's or our season stocks?
Which one do you want to do?
Let's go through last week, then we'll go to our season stocks. So last week's game, you took and it was a few weeks ago because we were off for a little while. You took what?
See's Candy or Berkshire Hathaway. I can't pronounce it.
Hathaway.
Hathaway. They are $500 per share today, and that's up $6 over last month. So not an insane amount up, but it's fine.
Yeah,
better than you did.
Better than I did. That's right. Yeah, because we said Berkshire had bought out See's Candy, so you got to have Berkshire as your pick. I had Target at $88 a share today, which is down down $9 from where it was last month. So I rolled the dice on Target, thinking that it was doing so well in kind of the collectible market, and there was all these lines outside of Target that it would benefit me. But clearly you won last week. But we've been tracking all season two stocks and just kind of monitoring week to week what's going on in the news that's impacting that stock. So I had Amazon. You had GameStop.
Look again who did better than another person. You
did. Here, you want me to recap Amazon first?
Yes.
Okay, I'll recap Amazon, then you can recap GameStop. So Amazon's trading at $220 a share today. When we started season 2, back in mid-June, it was trading at $216 a share. So I'm up $4 whole. And so, it's still, I think, even though it didn't go up tremendously over the last few months, I still think it's a great buy for anybody long term. It's, it obviously dominates the consumer product purchase market, but it also has expected continued growth of its AWS cloud computing business. So I think it's in a good place. It's really focusing on cutting down its costs, and that's allowed, what their CEO has done is really doubled their net income year over year to $13.5 billion, and so that's pretty significant because they used to have a net loss just a few years ago. So Amazon's going in the right direction, and I think a good stock to buy. But I didn't beat you because mine only went up. It went up $4 a share, which is only 2%. What did your stock do? GameStop.
Well, my stock was GameStop, and it's at $26 a share, up $3 over last month. And GameStop reported on the second quarter sales of $72.2 million in dollars, there's USD, and a net income of $168.6 million.
Wow, those are some big numbers there for second quarter sales. So that's pretty impressive. And so what has, spurred this kind of sudden rise in GameStop sales? I mean, we know it because we've been in line.
Pokemon cards.
Isn't it funny?
Because of the Pokemon card popularity, you can literally see people literally went overnight, right? And like people wait from the time the store closes until it opens the next day, waiting in line for Pokemon cards. The crazy thing is, this is not just people wanting to open Pokemon cards. These are people who this is their job. They buy the Pokemon cards from GameStop and then they resell them. That's how popular it is for like double or so the amount sometimes.
Right, exactly. It's like GameStop, for at one point, some people kind of thought of it as like a Circuit City or Blockbuster, like maybe going out of business soon. But no, GameStop is doing tremendously well, lines out the door, and part of this is fueled from the actual video games, but a lot of this has been fueled from the collector cards. All right, well, last episode of the season, and we do want to talk every episode about what's kind of going on in the world. I'll mention just kind of 2 quick things, and then I want to talk about some of the jobs report stuff we've seen lately has not been great at all, and so but we keep coming up to this theme in this podcast. We want everybody to take what's going on in the world and then just think for a moment. How is that going to impact specific industries or specific stocks? And so, for example, let me use these latest job reports going down. You want to talk about it?
I'll let you go.
Okay, I'll talk about it, and then you give the example of a stock. So the job report going down, is obviously not great for the economy, right? And you want people to have jobs, and you don't want to have more people unemployed, and you don't want to have the government making and creating. In private industry, making and creating less jobs. But the jobs report coming down does mean that interest rates will start to come down, right? Because if the economy is doing too well, the government gets concerned about inflation and the interest rates stay high. But as the job report doesn't do so good like it has been, we can expect interest rates to come down, and that has a positive impact on some companies, right? And so some companies can refinance their debt, and then some specific business models can grow when interest rates are low. Like low interest rates are good for the real estate market in terms of the home sales that occur. You're going to have more people being willing to buy homes if the interest rate is low. So that can impact certain stocks. Like, give me an example, David, a stock that could be benefit from low interest rates.
One stock is Open Door. Oh my. My dad says he found it, but he found it, and yet he still didn't buy it. So like you said you realized the stock. If you realize the stock, you have to buy the stock to count as realizing it. Well, Open Door right now is $8.62 a share. So it's not too much money. And 3 months ago, it was 50 cents a share.
Oh my gosh, what is that? I don't know what 50 cents and mathematically is up to $8.62, but in a few months, that's insane. Yes, everybody has this in life where you're kicking yourself because you saw something, you said, I should consider investing in that, and then you just didn't move quickly enough, and the next thing you know, you blink, and a few months later, this stock has gone up tremendously, exponentially. So I missed one there, but again, to tie it to the jobs report bad doesn't mean all the stocks are all of a sudden going to go down. Bad jobs report means interest rates will start coming down, or at least projecting to come down, and that could benefit certain stocks. So just keep in mind as we move forward, and we're not with you every week, pay attention to what's going on in the news. This current administration clearly is active on the tariff front. The other day there was an announcement that a bunch of home improvement items such as kitchen cabinets and countertops are going to get tariffed now. So pay attention to the tariffs, pay attention to what's going on in the news, and see how it's going to impact your specific industry. Otherwise, I think that's it for Season 2, David. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming for Season 3, a lot of great ideas. Maybe start bringing in some guests as well. But send us your ideas. But thanks for listening to Season 2. We had a blast.
We'll see you next time. Bye.